3 months on Kepler 442G changed the humans more than any mission in history. They no longer walked like explorers. They moved like part of the world itself. The forest no longer screamed when they approached. The ground no longer opened beneath their feet. The storms still came, but they passed around the settlement like a river flowing around a stone. Daniel stood on top of a ridge they had cleared weeks ago. The bioluminescent trees hummed softly around him, their blue light shifting like breathing. The air smelled different now, less hostile, more curious. Sophie climbed up to stand beside him. The new polymer shielding gleamed on her suit. Behind them, the small settlement had grown. They had 6 reinforced habitats, a functioning research dome, a hydroponic farm that Amy had nursed into existence, and defensive towers that the planet had stopped attacking. "We did it," Sophie said quietly. 3 months, and we're still alive. "Better than alive," Daniel said. "We're learning, and it's learning us." She didn't argue. She had seen it too. The planet no longer reacted with violence unless provoked. It watched them, evaluated them, and sometimes even helped them. The biggest proof came one morning when Kyle found something impossible. A pathway. Not a natural clearing, not broken trees, an actual path. The massive roots had moved aside, like they were inviting the humans deeper into the forest. Greg was ecstatic. "This is communication. It's telling us to follow. Or it's baiting us," Jake muttered. The memory of being swallowed by the ground was still fresh in his mind, but Daniel felt the same instinct in his bones that he felt the day he opened the airlock during the storm. "Trust. The planet hasn't given us a reason to think it's malicious anymore," he said. "If it wanted us dead, we wouldn't have lasted a week." Sophie finished his thought. "So maybe it wants to show us something." They followed the path. The forest around them glowed brighter the deeper they went. Vines curled away from their boots. Soft pulses of color raced across tree trunks like signals. Daniel realized the planet wasn't silent. It had never been silent. They had just been too human to hear it. After an hour, the path opened into a clearing. In the center stood something none of them expected. Structures. Not human, not metal, not stone-living structures grown from the roots themselves. They curved upward like spirals, humming with energy. Greg scanned them and froze. "This is the energy source we saw from orbit. The unexplained readings, the medical signatures, the impossible power output. The planet is generating this." "But why?" Amy whispered. Lisa stepped forward. Her scanner beeped wildly. "It's biological machinery," she said. "But it's also alive." Kyle circled the largest structure. The ground vibrated faintly under him like a heartbeat. "This is a control node. Part of the consciousness, part of the planet's brain." Daniel's chest tightened. Then the forest around them moved. Branches twisted into shapes. Vines braided together into symbols. The light in the bark formed patterns the ship's translator couldn't understand. But the meaning wasn't in the symbols. It was in the emotion behind them. Daniel felt it in his mind like pressure, fear, pain, warning. The planet was showing them memories. Images flooded their thoughts. Huge ships entering its atmosphere long before humans came. Structures being drilled into the soil. Trees cut. Mountains shattered. The planet screaming and defending itself. The Veni, the Cine. The planet hadn't attacked them out of cruelty. It attacked because it remembered being hurt. And then the images changed. The landing of the Endeavor. Humans cutting trees. Humans digging. The planet reacting. Fear again. Panic. Then something new. The storm. Daniel walking into the open airlock. Arms out. No weapon. No attack. The planet's fear shifted. Confusion. Curiosity. Finally, trust. The glowing structures dimmed and brightened in slow rhythm. Greg swallowed hard. "It's telling us something else now," Sophie whispered. "What?" Greg turned pale. "The planet is sick." The forest shuddered around them, as if confirming it. Kyle looked at the energy readings again. He wasn't smiling now. These structures are not supposed to be doing this. They're compensating for something failing deeper underground, something huge. Daniel stepped forward. "What do you need from us?" The vines shifted, roots curled, patterns formed again. A direction, a location, miles away. Deep underground, a place humans were not meant to go. But Daniel understood. The planet was asking for help, and for the first time in the history of the galaxy, an entire world was asking humans not to survive it, not to fight it, but to save it. Daniel took a breath. Then he nodded. "Tell the crew to prepare. We're going underground." Sophie stared at him. Into the core, into the neural network, into whatever made this thing alive. Daniel nodded. "If we save the planet saves us." And somewhere beneath their feet, the world itself seemed to exhale. 3 years had passed since the first landing on Kepler 442G. The settlement had grown from 12 brave humans to a thriving community of 300. Children had been born here. They had never seen Earth. To them, the glowing trees, moving plants, and colossal creatures were normal. To Daniel Hayes, now older and more experienced, this was home. Life had settled into a rhythm. Humans learned the rules of coexistence with the planet. They no longer feared it. They respected it. Every garden, building, and path had been carefully integrated with the natural ecosystem. The glowing sap from massive trees lit homes without electricity. Rainwater was collected and naturally filtered through minerals in the soil. Even the walls of the settlement were alive in a way, incorporating local plants that stabilized and cleaned the environment. Greg Palmer, the scientist, had cataloged over 12,000 species since the landing. Many had abilities no human had ever seen. Some animals could sense fear and mimic it. Some plants moved quickly to avoid being touched. Some creatures altered their chemistry to survive poisons. Each discovery fascinated him. Each one reminded him that this planet was alive not just with biology, but with intelligence. Lisa Chang had created dozens of technologies inspired by Kepler 442G. Her most recent invention was a self-sustaining energy generator, based on the bioluminescent properties of the massive trees. It produced power from dead organic matter, cleanly and efficiently. Cities on Earth could one day use it, eliminating the need for fossil fuels or nuclear reactors. Kyle Morrison had spent years mapping the planetary route network. It was vast, covering entire continents, possibly the entire planet. Kyle called it the planetary nervous system. He had even observed it, reacting to the humans' actions with patterns that resembled curiosity, caution, and approval. The planet remembered them. It knew who they were. Amy Peterson's gardens were thriving. Hybrid crops had been created by crossbreeding earth plants with native species. Tomatoes, wheat, and potatoes grew larger, faster, and more nutritious. Some had colors and tastes that had never existed on Earth. These plants taught humans about growth, adaptation, and the importance of listening to the environment rather than forcing it. Jake Collins, the settlement's head of security, led exploration teams into the forest. They moved cautiously but confidently, reading signs that indicated safety. They tracked the massive creatures, the hexapods, the flying stingers, the roaming predators, and learned their patterns. The forest no longer attacked the humans indiscriminately. It had accepted them. It tolerated them. It even protected them in certain zones. The humans had learned the most important lesson. Kepler 442G had rules. The storms, earthquakes, carnivorous soil, and predators were not random. They were consequences, responses, communication. If the humans acted respectfully, followed the patterns, and integrated into the ecosystem, the planet thrived alongside them. If they were reckless, the planet punished them. Daniel had called it listening with respect. It wasn't just about survival. It was about communication. It was about understanding that a world could be alive and intelligent in ways humans were only beginning to comprehend. One morning, 3 years after the landing, Daniel walked with Sophie and Greg to the edge of the settlement. The sunrise painted the bioluminescent forest with strange and beautiful light. The massive hexapods grazed at a distance. Flying stingers darted overhead, but they no longer threatened the humans. "We've come a long way," Sophie said quietly. Daniel nodded. "We survived storms, predators, plants, earthquakes, even the planet itself. And now we're part of it." Greg smiled. "I've never seen anything like this. The planet isn't just alive. It's teaching us. Every day, it shows us a new way to live." Lisa joined them. "And humanity isn't just surviving. We're learning, adapting, improving. Everything we take, we give back. Every tool, every structure, every garden is designed to work with Kepler 442G, not against it." Kyle stepped forward. "The planetary nervous system. It's changed. It recognizes us as residents. It even warns us sometimes, through small tremors or subtle plant movements. We're no longer intruders." Daniel smiled, watching the massive trees sway gently, as if nodding in approval. 3 years ago, we stepped onto this planet thinking we'd conquer it. Now, we're living in harmony with it. We didn't defeat it. We befriended it. A sudden hum echoed through the forest. The root network beneath the settlement pulsed with light. The humans froze. The sound wasn't threatening. It was welcoming. The planet was acknowledging them. They had passed its test. They were accepted. Sophie looked at Daniel. "Do you think this could happen on other planets?" "I think it already has," Daniel replied. "We just never noticed before. We always tried to conquer. Now we're learning to coexist." A distant shadow moved through the trees. A hexapod, taller than a skyscraper, paused, watching. Then it turned and walked away. The humans felt no fear. They were part of this world now. From Earth, messages began arriving more frequently. Supply ships carried new colonists, scientists, and families. Each group was trained in the Kepler Covenant before landing. Daniel and his crew guided them, teaching respect, patience, and observation. Those who adapted thrived. Those who didn't returned to Earth. Children born on Kepler 442G instinctively understood the rules. They knew which plants were safe, which creatures were harmless, and how to move through the forests without triggering the planet's defenses. They were humans, yes, but they were also citizens of a living world. 3 years in, Daniel received the long-awaited response from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Threll's message was short and precise. "We do not understand you. We do not understand how you survived. We cannot comprehend how you earned the trust of an intelligent planet. Humanity is granted authority over all Class 12 and above Death World colonization efforts. You are the species best suited for these worlds. Congratulations." Daniel smiled. The impossible had become possible. Humans had claimed their first Class 15 Death World not by force, but by diplomacy, respect, and understanding. As the twin moons rose over Kepler 442G, the settlement glowed with life. Children played near gardens, adults tended experiments and technology, and the forest thrummed with quiet approval. Humanity had arrived among the stars, not as conquerors, but as friends, and the galaxy had taken notice. The 4th year on Kepler 442G began with a strange phenomenon that no one could have predicted. The planetary nervous system had been sending subtle signals for months, teeny pulses, faint hums, and shifts in the forest that even the most experienced explorers noticed but could not fully interpret. Then, one morning, the signals aligned perfectly, forming patterns in the root network that resembled symbols, almost like a language. Daniel, Greg, and Kyle gathered at the observation deck above the largest root nexus. staring at the glowing formations beneath their feet. "It's trying to communicate," Greg whispered. "For years, we thought it was just reacting to us, but now, it's deliberate." Lisa's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We've been given a key, a code. If we can understand it, we might finally learn how the planet thinks." For weeks, the team studied the pulses, comparing them to animal behavior, plant growth, and environmental changes. Slowly, patterns emerged. Certain root pulses corresponded to danger storms, predator movement, or soil instability. Others represented curiosity or approval, guiding humans toward resources or safe zones. The breakthrough came when Sophie noticed that the hums shifted in frequency when humans attempted collaborative problem-solving, as if the planet itself wanted to observe and participate in their decisions. "It's testing us again," she said. "It wants to see how we solve challenges together." The first real challenge arrived unexpectedly. A massive storm, larger than any before, swept across the northern plains. Winds tore through trees, and lightning sparked fires in the distant forests. The humans acted quickly, using all knowledge gained over 4 years. They reinforced structures, diverted water to prevent floods, and guided animals away from danger. At the storm's peak, the root network pulsed violently, sending bioluminescent waves through the forests. Yet, no humans were harmed. Every precaution taken was amplified by the planet itself. Fruits shifted to block falling debris. Plants acted as shields, and creatures assisted instinctively. When the storm finally passed, the humans realized they had not survived alone. Kepler 442G had protected them. It had intervened deliberately. This realization changed everything. Humans no longer felt like settlers. They were partners. They understood the planet's intelligence, not just intellectually, but emotionally. Kyle proposed a bold experiment: to build a structure entirely integrated with the root network, a living observation tower that could amplify communication signals and perhaps allow the humans to speak to the planet. The construction took months. Plants were grafted into the walls, bioluminescent vines provided light, and the root network itself became part of the architecture, alive and responsive. Finally, the tower stood tall, glowing faintly under the twin moons. When Daniel, Greg, and Lisa entered the first chamber, the floor pulsed beneath their feet. Light traveled up the walls, weaving patterns that mirrored their movements and thoughts. "It's responding," Daniel said, awe in his voice. "It's aware of us here." Weeks of experiments followed. The humans learned to send simple queries. Where is water concentrated? Which creatures are migrating? How can we avoid soil collapse? The planet responded with pulses, vibrations, and shifts in the tower's light. Over time, more complex communication developed. The humans began to understand not just survival, but history memories stored in the root network that spanned millennia. They saw visions of massive storms, extinct species, and previous intelligent life that had once walked Kepler 442G. Each memory carried a lesson, a warning, or a story. The children, naturally attuned to the planet, became the most adept communicators. They played near the tower, laughing, and inadvertently asked questions that adults could not even formulate. The root network responded with clarity, guiding humanity to new discoveries. Plants with incredible medicinal properties, hidden water sources deep underground, and minerals capable of generating clean energy. One day, a new pulse pattern emerged, different from anything before, an invitation. The symbol suggested a location deep in the southern forest, a valley untouched by humans, a sacred place where the root network converged in unprecedented density. Daniel, Sophie, and a small team set out immediately. They trekked for days, navigating unfamiliar terrain, guided by the glowing signals. When they arrived, they were awestruck. The valley pulsed with bioluminescence, alive in a way no other part of the planet was. The air shimmered, and every plant and creature seemed to be watching. At the center stood a massive crystalline structure, grown naturally from the soil, roots intertwining with translucent crystal, glowing faintly. Greg approached cautiously. This is the planet's core of intelligence. We've found where it thinks. The team spent days observing, documenting, and learning from the phenomenon. Communication reached new heights. The planetary core revealed sequences of energy, thought patterns, and memories so intricate that humans struggled to comprehend them fully. Yet, slowly, a bond formed, deeper than ever before. Humanity was no longer just a visitor. It was a steward, a student, and a partner. Daniel understood that Kepler 442G had chosen them, not for their strength or numbers, but for their ability to listen, adapt, and respect. This partnership, forged over 4 years of struggle, learning, and collaboration, promised to redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. As the twin moons rose over the glowing valley, the humans stood silently, aware that they were witnessing something beyond comprehension, a living planet, aware, intelligent, and infinitely patient, now extending its trust to them. The future was uncertain, but Daniel knew one thing. Together, they would face it, guided not by conquest, but by understanding, respect, and a shared bond with the most extraordinary world humanity had ever known. Months passed after the discovery of the planetary core, and the humans' understanding of Kepler 442G deepened beyond anything they could have imagined. Every day brought new revelations: plants that shifted color to signal changes in the weather, animals that acted as guides through hidden terrain, and subtle pulses that carried memories of past civilizations long extinct. The planet had become a teacher, a mentor, and a silent guardian. As trust grew, so did humanity's confidence. Daniel, Lisa, Greg, and Sophie realized that their survival and knowledge were inseparable from the planet's will, and that they could no longer think of Kepler 442G as merely a place to inhabit. One evening, as the twin moons reflected off the crystalline valley, the planet pulsed in a rhythm so intricate it felt like a heartbeat. Daniel placed his hand on the core, sensing the connection, and understood something profound. The planet had been waiting, preparing, and choosing the right species to inherit its wisdom. It was a moment of communion, of recognition, and of ultimate respect. The humans responded not with words, but with thought, intention, and care, signaling that they were worthy partners. From that day forward, life on Kepler 442G became a harmonious collaboration. Human settlements were designed to enhance the planet's vitality rather than disrupt it, and every action was weighed against the knowledge the roots conveyed. The children, more attuned than anyone, led the way in discovering new methods of cooperation, turning play into learning, and learning into survival. Years later, when Daniel reflected on the journey from their first landing to the present, he realized how profoundly they had changed. They had come as explorers, seekers of knowledge, but they remained because they had become students of life itself. Kepler 442G had shaped them as much as they had shaped it. The planet had entrusted its secrets, and humanity had honored that trust. In the end, the story of survival was not about dominance, conquest, or fear. It was about understanding, empathy, and partnership. As the sun rose over the bioluminescent forests, the humans stood together, united not only with one another, but with the living, breathing world beneath their feet. And for the first time in history, they knew that they were not alone, not in the galaxy, and not on this extraordinary planet that had chosen them to share its wisdom. The future was a tapestry of endless possibility, woven together by trust, respect, and the eternal pulse of Kepler 442G, a heartbeat that would guide them for generations to come. Humanity had found its place, not as conquerors, but as partners, and the story of survival had become a story of connection, enlightenment, and hope that would resonate across the stars for all time.